Since Scenario 2 will be done in about 20 minutes time, I thought I'd do a quick update on where everyone's at. Fenwick is the first of the gang to die here. This kind of death is what happens when a character dies in an adventure and then gets back to town still dead. At that point you have to resurrect them in town at the Magician. I bumped Fenwick off because he was going to die of old age at 62. At that point you lose the character forever, but that's when you can create a descendant who gets all their stuff. Since we've already seen both genders of wizard, I wanted to use Fenwick for my experiments. The year that a character will die of old age seems to be randomly selected, but it's also fixed for that character. You can't get around it by reloading. Somewhere down the line, I want to show off the side effects of leaving a corpse around for several years before you resurrect it. Anyway, here we are on the Cursed Maria Regina. I think this has got to be the adventure that really sold Sierra on Sorcerian, and I say that in the most insulting way possible. For now we're just meeting the crew, all three of them, and kind of getting a feel for this murder mystery that we are going to have to solve eventually. This quest is a little bit like the Tower of Thieves in that it's pretty sprawling and hard to navigate, and doesn't have a lot of combat. It's really more of an adventure game kind of thing, but some of the puzzles and triggers you have to set are just totally nonsensical. We do have, in my opinion though, two of the more memorable songs on the soundtrack, and you know, nothing else looks like this adventure. It is unique. Joshua is the captain's son we heard about, and you may be noticing a trend with these names. They're all biblical names, and that's Sierra's doing. The ship itself was originally called the Queen Mary as well. Well, having interviewed the entire crew and read the victim's journal, we don't really have a clear picture of what's going on, although maybe the murder was some kind of dispute over this treasure they found on an island. Hard to say. And although it sounds like the kid's bird is down in the hold somewhere, for now we're gonna do the only obvious thing to do in this situation. That's get to the highest point on the ship, wait until nightfall, and roll around in some ghost fire. The purpose of this is the area that we could unlock with the hatchway key we got is dark, and I think we could probably bumble our way around in there. But after touching St. Elmo's fire, it's not an inventory item, it's kind of weird. You can see in the dark in there. You do have to have talked to everyone to trigger the St. Elmo's fire thing. There's a couple of these hold areas in the ship, and they're a pain in the ass to navigate. In general, like spatially, the ship makes some sense, but it's pretty hard to get a handle on where you're at. And while perspective changes like this are kind of cool, they don't help. I almost forgot to cast my Add to Life crutch, so I'm going to do that here. And there are a couple new spells to show off here, so that'll be coming up shortly. Apparently part of the curse on this ship is it exists in a state of time flux. Night and day are just sort of whatever here, real casual. While it is good that this map looks pretty unique, there are certain places where you really see the limitation of the tile engine in creating this sort of environment. You mainly see it in the front view, and whatever that weird thing by Joshua is, I don't even know what that's supposed to be. But also the perspective on the deck of the ship is really weird. We are in the area that would be dark right now. I'll go over some of the name changes that Sierra did. The captain's name is Giono Leon. I don't think they bothered giving that in the American one. And his son Joshua was originally named Tom. Took the wrong path here, had to double back. Lucas, the smug dickhead with the bandana, was originally Andrew Moritz. We're beset by ghosts here, so Rio's going to use Firefox, and Garzi is going to use Sunray. Sunray looks a lot like the other beam spells, but it seems like you can fire it more continuously. Firefox is really slow, but that's enough about web browsers. Its trajectory does make it sort of useful. We'll see if we can recover Joshua's macaw here to hopefully convince him to get off the ship. Nope. Anyway, the rest of the name changes. Jeremiah, the big doofy looking guy, was Robert Corning. Ezekiel, the bald kinda dwarf looking dude, was Killy Emerson. So maybe that's a clue. Finally, the victim Jacob, his name was originally David Arshley. This part is one of the sequences that actually makes a little sense. You would expect the macaw to have flown away to some kind of high point, so we're gonna go check the masts. There are some vicious seagulls up here, so we'll see how they like Thunderbolt. And they don't seem too bothered by it, honestly. It does look really cool, though, huh? So we got the macaw, but Thunderbolt is a real humdinger of a spell. It seems like if there's too many sprites on the screen, it won't even go off, although it will continue to drain MP. And it has a pretty low threshold, so that's why it disabled everyone else's magic. So we got Joshua in our party, and maybe we can get him off this ship and set damn sail to wherever the hell it is that we want to go. He can't do anything, and he only has 100 HP, so luckily we don't really run into any enemies on the path out. Like, Pentala's pretty big, right? You would think they would have a ship somewhere that you wouldn't have to babysit. Well, so long, Joshua. Your father may or may not love you, but we certainly don't care either way. Well, luckily we can leave the screen and come back, and he'll forgive us. Diana, I've once again boarded the ship Maria Regina. If we can find a murder weapon, a motive, or a suspect, we'll be able to clinch this one up in no time. Henceforth, I will be utilizing a Tibetan investigation technique taught to me by the Dalai Lama, in which I move around the ship arbitrarily and completely at random. And pretend I made a coffee joke, I haven't got it in me. Anyway, Lucas has locked his room and is being uncooperative. And Jeremiah is tired all the time. Maybe he's being poisoned? And now Chekhov's axe has been set up, so we seem to have a murder weapon. If we can just find it. I call this the storm room. I think it's our quarters, technically. But I came in here because you have to trigger a couple events by coming in here, and I thought we might have been ready. But what we actually had to do was come up to the crow's nest and talk to Ezekiel, who warped up here from his quarters, so that Jeremiah could leave his room and we could discover his locked desk, at which point, through the power of deduction, we know to go back down to Jacob's room. So that happened, and at this point, using inductive rather than deductive reasoning, we have to go back to the storm room. Now, if you've been paying attention, that sound can only mean one thing, and that is Ezekiel is back down in the cargo hold. I'm sorry, this act is probably getting old, huh? But yeah, the idea of a murder investigation is cool, but Phoenix Wright, it ain't. Just for laughs, I'm going to check these barrels now in order to show that there is something coming a little later that you can actually figure out by checking and thinking. The upper left barrel is heavy. Remember that. So, people are acting crazy, people are throwing gold overboard, there's an axe missing, and oh. Well, looks like Jeremiah's checked out, so that narrows down the suspect list. Let's see if we can't get into that desk of his now, and find some diary entries that don't mean anything. Seems to be infested with rats, so let's knock their socks off with Shaggy's Deathbolt potion. Did you see that? It seems like Deathbolt is also affected by the number of sprites on the screen. So there's holy water hidden on the ship, and only Jeremiah knew where it was. The joke would be on him if it turned out to be hydrochloric acid. At this point, though, we've got all the clues we need, and we're ready to go find the murder weapon, because Sorcerian, the bloody axe is hidden down here behind this barrel. It may be that you can check the barrel and see the scratch marks before this point, you just can't move it, but I don't think I actually checked on my test run. Anyway, because it's literally impossible that Ezekiel would have been lying about losing his axe as a cover-up, we now have enough evidence to convict Lucas. I'll give the wrong answer first, just to show you that it doesn't lock you out. But you do have to reset the screen again. So we've solved the mystery, and I guess we're gonna take off to wherever it is we want it to go, even though there's no crew. Well, there's more going on than all that. This is that island we've been hearing about. I guess the island must be right there in Pentawa Harbor for us to have landed here. The last spell of this update is the blue spell that Shaggy has on right now. It's called Astral Fire, and it looks like it would be pretty effective if we could find something that it was effective on. The big picture is finally coming together a little bit here. The golden bottle with the evil spirit must be the bottle that someone's diary mentioned. it's also the gold that Ezekiel saw being thrown overboard. So it seems like we're dealing with some kind of demon possession situation. This island part was actually expanded on pretty thoroughly in the PC-88 VA version of Sorcerian, because here and on every other version it's just this horizontal stretch. But on the VA version, there's an explorable area with some tribal NPCs, which, you know, at this point you're pretty tired of running around a maze. But it would have been nice to get, and I think it's the only such adventure that is like that. Usually, if there are any map differences, it is in the IBM's favor, because it has the same maps as the higher-powered versions. So, if we're gonna believe Lucas, and I don't know why we wouldn't, because he just teleported himself across the island. The situation here is actually closer to Frailty, that Bill Paxton movie. He killed Jacob and Jeremiah because they were possessed by the devil. Or a devil. With Lucas's auger, we can go check out that heavy barrel from before. And I ain't talking about Akari Warriors clones. We got to see some more Astral Fire failing to do anything there. Ezekiel, no! For some reason they made his final words really hard to read, but it seems like he's been killed by the captain, who has now been possessed by the demon. So if the purpose of this adventure was to secure a ship we could use in later voyages, I would say regardless of the outcome of this whole demon thing that we've failed miserably. The entire crew is dead. In spite of all its glaring flaws and all the sarcasm, you know, I do like this adventure. I wouldn't put it in my top 5, but top 10, which, come to think of it, out of a pool of 15 is not the biggest praise. Well, now we have to go get Captain Leon's soul back, and sounds like we're in for a good old-fashioned boss fight. Maybe we can get some loot. Even though I'll concede that this is an okay adventure, I really don't like the Archdemon. He looks like an 80s, like, cleaning product logo. But as most bosses, he's pretty easy. He only ever faces to the right, and it's possible to scroll him off the left side of the screen and have to restart the fight. Yeah, looks like Lucas is dead too, after all. I kinda liked him. And they're not gonna let us go without one more poorly defined task. Up until this point, everything has been going on the middle mast, but he is talking about the rear sail. You just have to come up here and the sail unfurls on its own, and you can see the golden bottle drop down there. With bottle in hand, we've done everything that there is to do on the cursed ship. So let's get the hell off this crazy thing. They were really into that blinking effect for this one, huh? Farewell, Queen Mary. You get the option of giving the gold bottle to the king, but it's a little bit of a bait. The bottle doesn't do anything. For that matter, neither does any of the other loot from this quest. But with another chunk of the game in the bag, we are coming up on the final leg of our Sorcerian adventure. If you've been with me so far, thanks, and I hope you'll join me for the last third of the game. We'll kick off Scenario 3 next time with the Garden of the Gods.